this will be the last question, and it'll begin with Jim Crawford. It'll be, what can be done to prevent the use of guns near Carolina Meadows?
Let's see. Well, we have ordinances in terms of safety with hunting. The state has a few, so that's the hunting part of the equation. In terms of people kind of going rogue for various reasons, sadly, very little can be done to prevent that. I support and always fund our sheriff's department. He gets priority perhaps just under the schools, but if he has a special need. And I support putting a police substation in the Northeast and expediting that process, hopefully as soon as we have a new facility built near the Health Sciences building that's going up on 15501, that we'll be able to have at least a quicker response from the Sheriff's Department in the event something like that happens. But in terms of prevention, short of having more stringent rules about who gets handguns or other weapons, I really don't see a whole lot that we can do at the local level. If there were any kind of signs of violence, I'm sure the police deputies would have more routine patrols up here and kind of keep an eye on things before something bad might get out of hand. But sadly, we as a county can't really pass ordinances that would survive a Superior Court challenge under not just the U.S. Constitution, but especially the North Carolina Constitution in terms of protecting people's right to carry arms. Now, we do have a role as a county in terms of being basically the largest mental health provider, not directly as county agents, but funding and supervising through our public health department mental health services, that if we are able to, as a community, identify people who may have volatile tempers or have an axe to grind against a neighbor, that we might be able to send them and have the government basically cover the medical health that they would need. But it's a very thorny question, and I very much am curious to hear what my friends have to say.
Well, we did have the occasion of a gun range. And we did, that was operating in the county, and we dealt with an ordinance about the gun range. But in doing so, we also had to look at state law. And state law with this particular legislative body was really bent on lifting all kinds of prohibitions and all kinds of restrictions. They call it regulation. So if you were operating as a gun club, you were exempted. So in talking to the sheriff, we worked out something with the gun range, mainly because they did not have proper berms. We can control on berms, okay, and but that actually stopped that particular activity on that particular property. But people have I live in the West. My husband shoots I hear shooting all the time, and there is no way to prevent specifically somebody shooting on their own property, again, unless they are operating as some sort of commercial enterprise. But it's a sticky wicket, and you're not the only ones. There's one at Powell Place also that we tried working through our land records to just deal with the owner of that particular site who had built a deer stand, and it was proximate to high dense housing. So these are real issues that happen, but we can only do what the law says we can do. But if there's berms involved, we can step in.
Okay, here's where I lose the crowd. It sounded like a very specific question, using guns around here, and since I don't know the specifics, I won't necessarily comment on, but I will say that I support the idea of someone being able to shoot guns on their property in a safe manner. I support hunting. I support, particularly in a rural community like we have, I think that not only should be supported, there are many benefits to that. And I don't want to imply that if I could, I would try to stop people from using weapons on their property safely. What I would want to know is if there are unsafe conditions, we can address those one by one because we want it to be safe. When it comes to gun ranges, I think that's a case-by-case basis as well. If a gun range is in place and then someone moves near that gun range, that's a different situation than if there's a housing community and a gun range wants to move in. So we have to protect the property rights, we have to protect the constitutional rights of both sides, and I'm not going to immediately jump in and say we need to start taking gun rights away and hunters' rights away without knowing more of the details and how that what that actually affects. So again, I don't know the specifics here, but safely on someone's property, I would support.
Okay, I think the question was how we avoid a situation, a tragic situation, and like that. And for me, unfortunately, I've had experience in this field. And mental health, to me, there's a real shortfall there. Too many people end up in jail that need assistance far beyond the jail, and they're going to get turned out or released before they're ready to be back out in society. And I've talked to people about this. Talked to Judge Buckner about it recently, and I think he's serving on a task force or something along these lines, and he's addressed this with me. But that's an area that I would really pursue. And I know Jim mentioned that we do have the assistance there, but there's not enough. I know of two instances in Chatham County that they were real close to being dangerous situations, and the parents are totally out of control, and that they're helpless in these situations, and they need more help there. And as far as the First Amendment rights, I like Brian's support that, and I don't hunt. I'm trying to keep animals alive, not kill them. That's my big thing. But anyway, so that's all I have.
I thought it was great to spend an evening this way listening to some very important topics that are not discussed in the national news. Thank you very much for talking to us.